You're using your phone to navigate through the city right now, and it's probably showing you the exact location of the nearest coffee shop or subway station. But have you ever wondered how apps actually know your location? You might think it's just the GPS chip in your phone doing all the work, but that's not the whole story. In fact, most people think that their phone's location is determined solely by the GPS signal it receives from satellites orbiting the Earth. However, this is a simplistic view that doesn't take into account the complex interplay of technologies that work together to provide location information. The reality is that location tracking is a multifaceted process that involves a combination of GPS, cell tower signals, Wi-Fi signals, and even Bluetooth devices. The simple version is that when you open a map app or a ride-hailing service, it uses the GPS signal to figure out where you are. This is because GPS, or Global Positioning System, is a network of satellites that orbit the Earth, sending out signals that can be received by GPS receivers, like the one in your phone. However, this is not the only way that apps know your location. You're watching TrendFlow, where we explain the tech that runs your life. The GPS signal is just one piece of the puzzle, and it's often supplemented by other forms of location tracking. For example, when you're in a densely populated urban area, the GPS signal may be weak or unreliable, and that's where other forms of location tracking come in. Cell towers, Wi-Fi routers, and Bluetooth devices all send out signals that can be used to triangulate your location, providing a more accurate and reliable picture of where you are. So, how do apps actually know your location? Think of it like a big game of triangulation. Your phone is constantly receiving signals from cell towers, Wi-Fi routers, and even Bluetooth devices around you. These signals are like breadcrumbs that your phone uses to figure out where you are. It's like being in a big room with several friends, and each friend is shouting out their name. Your phone is listening to all these signals and using them to calculate your location. This process is called trilateration, and it's used by both Google and Apple to determine your location. But what's interesting is that this process is not just limited to GPS and cell tower signals. Wi-Fi signals, for example, can be used to provide highly accurate location information, especially in indoor environments. This is because Wi-Fi signals are often more reliable and widespread than GPS signals, and they can be used to provide location information even when the GPS signal is weak or unavailable. But here is what most people do not realize. Apps can even know your location when you're not using them. This is because many apps use something called background location tracking, which allows them to access your location even when you're not actively using the app. This is often used for things like tracking your daily commute or finding nearby friends. For example, WhatsApp uses location tracking to help you find nearby friends, and many iOS apps use it to provide location-based services. But what's concerning is that this background location tracking can be used for more nefarious purposes, such as targeted advertising or even surveillance. This is why it's essential to be aware of the apps that are using background location tracking and to review the permissions that you've granted to each app. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're concerned about your location being tracked, you can try turning off location services for certain apps or using a VPN to mask your location. You can also try using apps that don't require location tracking, like games or productivity apps. Additionally, you can review the location tracking settings for each app on your phone and adjust them to your liking. This will give you more control over who can see your location and when. But it's not just about apps. Your phone's operating system also plays a role in location tracking. For example, both Android and iOS have built-in location tracking features that can be used to provide location information to apps. This is why it's essential to review the location tracking settings on your phone and to adjust them to your liking. Beyond GPS and cell towers, one of the most powerful location tools hiding in plain sight is Wi-Fi positioning.
Companies like Google and Apple have spent years building massive databases of Wi-Fi access point locations.
Google's Street View cars, while photographing roads for Google Maps, simultaneously recorded the names and signal strengths of millions of Wi-Fi networks along their routes. Apple devices contribute to a similar database by anonymously reporting the Wi-Fi networks they detect alongside their current GPS coordinates. When your phone picks up signals from several known Wi-Fi access points, it can calculate your position to within roughly 10 to 15 meters, even indoors where GPS signals cannot penetrate concrete and steel. On top of that, every device connected to the internet has an IP address, and internet service providers assign IP addresses to specific geographic regions. This is why a website can guess your approximate city even if you have disabled every location permission on your phone. IP-based geolocation is far less precise, often accurate only to the city or postal code level, but it serves as a reliable fallback when all other location methods are unavailable. In fact, this is how Google and Apple Maps are able to accurately measure traffic on every single road. They use a combination of GPS data, cell tower signals, and Wi-Fi signals to determine the location and speed of devices on the road.
This information is then used to provide real-time traffic updates and predict trip times.
It's like having a network of invisible sensors that are tracking the movement of devices all around the world. But what's interesting is that this technology is not just limited to traffic updates. It's also being used in other areas, such as urban planning and environmental monitoring. For example, cities can use location tracking data to optimize traffic flow and reduce congestion, while environmental organizations can use it to track the movement of wildlife and monitor the health of ecosystems. This technology is also being used in other areas, like construction projects. For example, workers on large construction projects use a combination of GPS, cell tower signals, and Wi-Fi signals to navigate the site and find their way around. It's like having a personal guide that shows you exactly where you need to go. And it's not just limited to construction projects. This technology is being used in many other areas, like human rights monitoring and emergency response.
For example, during natural disasters, location tracking can be used to track the movement of people and provide critical information to emergency responders.
This can help to save lives and reduce the impact of disasters. For instance, during the Facebook outage, many people were unable to access their location-based services, like Facebook's Nearby Friends feature. This showed just how reliant we are on these services and how much they affect our daily lives. It's like having a part of our lives suddenly disrupted, and it highlights the importance of understanding how these technologies work. But what's also interesting is that this outage also highlighted the importance of diversifying our technological dependencies. By relying on multiple technologies and services, we can reduce the impact of outages and ensure that we're always connected. This is why it's essential to be aware of the technologies that we're using and to explore alternative options. As tech writers at The Washington Post, Jeffrey Fowler and Drew Harwell have covered smartphone data tracking and Zoom security, and they've seen firsthand how this technology is being used. They've also explored how our relationship to tech is changing during the pandemic and how this is affecting our daily lives. It's like having a window into a whole new world, and it's fascinating to see how this technology is evolving.
But what's also concerning is that this technology is not just being used for benign purposes.
It's also being used for surveillance and data collection, and this raises important questions about privacy and security. This is why it's essential to be aware of the technologies that we're using and to explore the implications of their use. And it's not just limited to smartphones. This technology is being used on other platforms, like TikTok. For example, TikTok is being used to unravel human rights atrocities in China by tracking the location of devices and monitoring the movement of people. It's like having a powerful tool that can be used for good or ill, and it highlights the importance of understanding how this technology works. But what's also interesting is that this technology is not just being used for social media platforms. It's also being used in other areas, such as healthcare and education.
For example, location tracking can be used to track the movement of patients and provide critical information to healthcare providers, while it can also be used to track the movement of students and provide personalized learning experiences.
There is one more layer most users never see. In the United States, the Federal Communications Commission's E911 mandate requires that wireless carriers be able to locate any phone that dials 911 to within 50 meters outdoors. To meet this requirement, carriers developed Assisted GPS, or AGPS, which feeds satellite orbit data from cell towers directly to your phone, so it can lock onto a GPS signal in roughly 2 seconds instead of the 30 seconds or more that a cold GPS start would normally take. AGPS is the reason your map app seems to know where you are almost instantly when you open it. This infrastructure exists in similar forms across Europe, Japan, and India, meaning that no matter where you are in the world, multiple overlapping systems are working to pinpoint your device. So the next time you pull up directions or share your location with a friend, remember there is an entire invisible architecture of satellites, towers, routers, and regulations making it all possible. Subscribe to TrendFlow. Next video, the hidden feature your phone uses every second.